Ryan Casey here with another edition of the MASSP podcast. Today, we're going to be talking with MASSP board member and principal Jeff Dykhouse of East Grand Rapids Middle School to learn about their unique fundraising approach through their day-long regatta competition. Jeff will share how the students, staff, parents, and the community come together for this great event in which classes compete in a homemade cardboard boat building competition, which promotes teamwork, communication, and other great lessons. Listen in to hear how successful this program has been, what it takes to execute, and more. So enjoy your ride to or from school, your run on the treadmill, or however you like to listen, because another MASSP podcast episode starts now. Alrighty, thank you so much, Mr. Jeff Dykhouse from East Grand Rapids Middle School, for being on the MASSP podcast again today. How's it going?
Hey, Ryan, thanks for having me today. It's great. We are actually in the midst of our homecoming week in East Grand Rapids, so we're having a great week.
Good. So adding a podcast to your to-do list this week was definitely a great decision in the midst of all the busy homecoming festivities. So I appreciate you finding the time to speak with us today. We are going to be talking about this really cool regatta event, something I saw on social media. But before we do that, Jeff, just to give people a little bit of background about yourself, can you just talk about how long you've been in education and how long you've been at East Grand Rapids Middle School and so on?
Absolutely. So this is I believe this is my 15th year in education. I started out as a middle school social studies teacher, and I was in the classroom for 8 years at a couple different districts. I had my first administrative opportunity actually at a high school. I was at Byron Center High School as a high school assistant principal for 4 years.
I didn't know that. See, I learned something new already.
I did my time at high school, and I tell you what, I was excited to get back to middle school after that. So I'm in my 4th year at East Grand Rapids Middle School as the principal here, and I am excited about being back in the middle level and with middle school students. And so East Grand Rapids is a great community, and honored to be a part of it, and to do some really cool events like we're going to talk about today.
Awesome. Well, I love getting to do the podcast because I get to talk to different people in education about really cool things they're doing, at their school or at their district. And so today I was just pumped to be able to talk to you about this regatta event. So I'm on social media. I see kids in life jackets and homemade boats, and I'm not sure if they're just racing or see how long they can stay afloat. And I've heard about the event before. I think maybe I've heard you, share it at a board meeting or whatnot, but I just thought it was a really cool idea. And I just wanted to learn more because I think there are other listeners that would love to learn about how to do maybe something similar as well. So can you just kind of give us the rundown of what is the regatta and how does it work?
Absolutely. So the regatta really is, for our community, for our kids, for our teachers, it really is the highlight of our entire school year. It is a day that we look forward to when we step into a new school year, and it is a day that we talk about for weeks and weeks afterwards. And I love being able to share with other communities, with parents, because this event truly is amazing for our kids. It's a community event where we literally take over a local park. We're very fortunate here. Our school is right near Reed's Lake, which is a local lake here in East Grand Rapids. And there's a beautiful park right at the lake that the city operates. And so the city is a very gracious partner with us, and they let us take over the park for an entire day. And our students, we will go down there. And as you mentioned, ultimately, we give our kids just 2 things. We give them cardboard and duct tape, and we give them about 2.5 hours. And they have to build 2 boats in the scope of 2.5 hours that they're going to take out on the lake, and they are going to compete in a regatta, a cardboard boat race. One of the boats is supposed to be for speed because it is a race. So we launch 2 boats at once, and they are competing in a race and racing across the front of the lake. And we see which boat has the fastest time. And the other boat is supposed to be a best in show, where every class has a theme and they create and design a boat. So they're coloring on the duct tape. They're using colored duct tape, right? They can bring in their own colored duct tape to use. And there's a ton of different colors, and there's camo duct tape, there's theme duct tape. It's awesome. And so each class builds a boat for best in show. Now the best in show boat also goes out on the lake and races on the lake. And we have voting at the end, and we vote for what boat is the best in show, the most creative. And those boats are out there on the lake. There's really two parts to it. So part one is the race, and we're looking for the fastest time. And part two is the ability to stay afloat. So the goal is to stay afloat for 13 minutes. And if a boat can float for 13 minutes, they get maximum points. And then they get to row themselves to shore and stay dry. It's just fun to see the different creations that our kids make. The different theme boats are always amazing what the kids come up with. And I would encourage people to go check out my social media. There's pictures of some of the boats on there, just to see what these kids can come up with and do in 2 hours of time with just cardboard and duct tape. It's pretty amazing.
I can't stop smiling and just kind of laughing inside my head as you're talking, because I'm thinking, all right, so if they don't last 13 minutes, that means they are getting wet, probably, yes?
Oh, yes. So if they don't survive 13 minutes, which many of the boats don't make it, we always have some boats that sink within the first 5 seconds. The kids jump in the boat off the dock and the boat immediately sinks. And we have other boats that could probably stay afloat for 20 minutes if they kept going. So this event, again, it is an awesome team building event for our school. Our teachers, they get a lot of great activities out of this. Our math classes are doing lessons on netting, teaching kids about 3D shapes and sizes. And our science classes do lessons on buoyancy and aerodynamics. So there's a ton of teaching that goes into this event as well. So it's a great event for our teachers, our kids. But it's also, the other part of this is that it's our one and only fundraiser for the year. And that's kind of where this whole idea came from. And I can't take credit for it. This idea for a regatta was the ingenious idea of my predecessor, the principal before me, Mr. Anthony Mori. This was his idea. Our school had been doing a magazine fundraiser. And if you think about where we are here in this century, people don't buy magazines anymore, right? Yeah. Trying to have students walk around your community and sell subscriptions to magazines, there's no wonder that was a failed fundraiser idea. So that fundraiser brought in $6,000 a year for our school, which is great. But Mr. Mori thought that there could be more. And so he came up with this idea of having a community event. And that's really one of the things that we've seen out of this, and what we've learned from our parents and our community is that they don't always want to just buy things. And fundraisers are typically that idea, right? That you're selling something. And in my 15 years of being in education, I've seen it all. We've sold pizza kits. I was at a school that sold socks. We've sold, magazines, socks, water bottles, right?
Coupon cards, right? Coupon cards.
Coupon cards and coupon books and hams and apple pies. And,
oh, yeah.
And that's great. But what we found was that number one, some people don't want to buy things. I've actually had people come to me and say, I would rather just give you money than you sell me something. And one thing we learned too is that when you're selling things, it's really hard to get corporate support and corporate donations. And when you're doing a community event like we do here in the Regatta, a lot of the money that we raise actually comes from local businesses, local corporations that just want to be good community partners and support their schools. And so we've got local businesses that will donate anywhere from $500 to our largest donation this year was $3,000 from our local community. And
very cool.
You can't sell enough magazines to get to $3,000, but when you can go out to your community and you can share your vision with them, share how this activity is improving our schools, improving our teamwork, our collaboration, our communication, they get behind that and they want to support that. And so we've learned that one of the most important things with doing a fundraiser like this is sharing your message and sharing what it does for your school, your community, and then sharing how those funds that they're going to donate are going to support and improve the value of the education and school. And so this year we just wrapped up our regatta 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. And I think the last thing I heard, our fundraising tally was that our PTO had raised over $46,000.
Wow, that's
into the
amazing.
school.
Awesome. And I think you're right. The comment you made where somebody mentioned, like, listen, I'd rather just give you the money knowing it's going to be really well used and received and it's needed to help with something versus just money and I get something out of it, so that's really cool. I've got a lot of follow-up questions for you, Jeff, if that's okay. So you mentioned that this is kind of a class approach. So by that, you mean like a classroom. So Mrs. Smith, seventh grade geography teacher, is it like all the first hours kind of compete against each other? How does that setup work a little bit?
Yeah, great question. So it is a classroom activity. So again, every classroom gets to design 2 boats. And it is designed essentially by your first hour class. So every student is going to, so the day before the regatta, they get about 30 minutes for that group to start doing some teamwork, some strategizing. They clear their space in the classroom because you just want space, right? You clear all the desks out. You just build a big, giant open space in your classroom so that you have a place to work. And then on regatta day, we start right in the morning. And the classes have their cardboard, their duct tape, their ideas and strategy, and off they go. And so they are building their boats. We go out to the lake, and what's really awesome is each boat has 2 rowers in it, right? So 2 students are going to be out on the lake and they're rowing, and the rest of the class is lining the banks of Reed's Lake, and they are cheering on their classmates, right? And they're cheering for their boat because they want to win this competition. We do have a prize that goes out to the winning class from each grade level. So we have actually 3 different regattas that take place. There's a 6th grade regatta, a 7th grade, and an 8th grade. And they're competing just against their common grade level. And so each grade level does have a winner, and the prize is the golden paddle. So think of the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, that's right.
A paddle, we have an oar that is spray painted gold.
There you go.
Whatever class wins the regatta, we write their name on it, and then that classroom gets to have the golden paddle for the year, and the teacher will proudly display it in the classroom, and it is bragging rights.
I was gonna say, I bet you the teachers do a little bit of bragging, especially if there's a repeat teacher's classroom that's got the design figured out. I can imagine.
So I'm gonna tell you, the teachers are almost more competitive than the kids sometimes. And when we have our staff meeting, like 2 weeks before the regatta, and we talk about it as a staff, right? And we talk about the event to make sure everyone's ready for it. The teachers are like diving into the competitive side because we have different rules, right? There's different things like you can't bring in paint because we don't want kids to spill paint on the carpeting, right? So they can bring in markers so that they can draw on their boats and design it, but we tell them you can't bring paint. So one of the arguments that we've had is, can you bring in paint markers? And this is something brought up by the teachers, not the kids, right? Saying, well, what about paint markers? Because they're technically not paint and they're technically a marker, but you said we can't have paint. And they are like getting into it and they want to know, right? Is there a loophole here? Like, can I bring in a paint marker for my kids?
It's not a loophole, Jeff. It's called a competitive advantage. I'm sure somebody brings in the Flex Seal, that infomercial, the Flex Seal tape. I bet you have to have a requirement regarding that.
Oh, I've got a slideshow of all of the rules, and there's like a 6-page document of all of the rules. And
I'm sure
if anyone wants this, like shoot me an email. I love to share things because I'm a person that steals from other, but it's competitive. It's fun. And one of the things we do each year, so our students will do this 3 times in middle school, right? Because they do it once as a 6th grader, once as a 7th, once as an 8th grader. And so every year we have a different challenge, right? Because we want to spice it up a little bit and give our kids something new to do. And so this year's challenge was actually to design and create your own paddle. So we've got wooden oars, and we'll give kids the wooden oar, right, if they want to use that to paddle. But this year they could earn bonus points by creating their own paddle. And if they use that paddle during the race, they got extra bonus points. And so It was so fun to see what kids came up with. I mean, there was one class that the kids took Frisbees and duct taped that to like a broomstick. And that was their paddle.
There you go.
There's another class that actually used like if you think of from a classroom, like a paper tray, right? Where kids turn in their papers, they glued one of those to a stick and that was their paddle. So we try to spice it up and give our kids just new ways
Very
every
cool.
year to have some fun and design something new.
So I know the first thing people will think of, and this, but maybe it's a west side of the state thing, because my dad is from Grand Rapids. He went to Grand Rapids Public Schools, graduated in the 60s. And I remember him talking about doing different things like this. Now, they might have gotten a little crazier back then because he was doing it on the Grand River, I think, somehow. But anyways, I've always wanted to do this. So I was an administrator. I still live over in the Thumb east side of the state, right along Lake Huron. So big, giant lake. It's a little harder maybe with the conditions and whatnot. But from a safety standpoint, how do you get, how does the superintendent's office sign off on this? Obviously life jackets, I'm assuming. Do you have somebody sitting out in the middle of the lake on like a regular boat ready to assist if need be? Maybe it's not that deep of a lake and I just don't understand either, but I was curious about some of those. How'd you get around some of those safety protocols?
No, those are all great questions because those are all things that we have to think about, right, as administrators. And you're right. In order to do something like this, you've got to have the support of your superintendent, your district office, to make sure that, that you can do this. So there's a lot of things that we do to try to make sure that this event is a safe event for everyone because, it might sound like the principal's worst nightmare, Turning a bunch of kids loose in a park, putting them out on the open water, So we take a lot of things obviously into consideration. One of the things that we do is just talk about the cardboard piece, So our kids are cutting cardboard and they've got some pretty hefty scissors that they have to use because normal scissors don't cut cardboard. So we purchased all of these cut resistant gloves. We purchased safety scissors and these cardboard cutters that have guards on them so that the blade isn't open and it's not anywhere that you'd cut your hand. So our kids have to watch a safety video that we created on how to safely cut cardboard and how to safely use these tools. So that's one thing that we do just initially to make sure kids are safe as they're cutting the cardboard and building their boats. And then our students that are going to be out on the lake, every student, we do have the parents sign a waiver that they understand obviously what their kids are doing, that they're going to be out on the water. And the students all have to wear life jackets. So as a school, we have about 25 or 30 life jackets that we've just accumulated over the years. And we have those available so that our kids all ensure that they're wearing a life vest out on the water. We usually have, this year we had, I think 5 or 6 boats, but we'll have parents that will volunteer to bring their boat over to where we're doing this event. And they almost create like a little buffer. So they will anchor their boats just past our course so that we have a clear distinction between where our event is going and any traffic that might be out on the regular part of the lake. So they're a little buffer for us. They also help out if a boat seems to go off course and starts drifting out towards the middle of the lake. They will help redirect them back towards.
And I'm guessing that happens every now and again.
That does. Sometimes the boats, the oars, the paddles, they're not getting the right direction. Cardboard boats are not all made to necessarily go the right direction or to go straight as kids are paddling. So they're helping to steer them back towards the course. We always will have student volunteers. So we will partner with one of the high school athletic teams.
Very cool.
We partnered with boys water polo. And so we had some water polo players that stand like knee to waist deep in the water. And those students are just helping the kids come back out of the water as they're leaving the lake. They're helping to scoop up the loose pieces of cardboard that, detach from the boat. We want to be making sure we don't pollute or leave litter in the lake. So we've got students that are out there dragging the cardboard back to shore. And then we also hire a couple of lifeguards just to ensure that we've got, again, even though kids are wearing life vests, it's just an extra safety precaution having a couple of lifeguards on site. And finally, we've got just a ton of parent support. So our PTO sends out a sign up genius. And for that day, I'll bet we get anywhere from 60 to 70 parents that volunteer to sign up to be part of the event. They're helping supervise the park. They're helping to be our timekeepers, our scorekeepers, our photographers for the day. So we've got amazing parent support.
It sounds like you've really thought of everything. Other just curious question, and then I'll try and get you out of here and get back to all the homecoming stuff you got going on, Jeff. Obviously, it's a fundraiser, so you don't want to go around spending a ton of money on cardboard and duct tape. Are you able to get some of those items donated, or are custodians saving this stuff as different shipments come in throughout the year? How does that work?
Great question. So actually this year, all of those items were donated. So
Awesome.
part of it is, again, it's reaching out to your community and seeing who's out there and who can support. So the duct tape this year was actually donated by one of our parents who owns a packaging and packaging company.
Great.
All of the cardboard was donated this year. There were 2 different organizations that donated the cardboard. And again, one of them was a parent who works at a company that had a bunch of corrugated cardboard, and they produced that and they donated all of those. And then the other one was actually a local appliance store. And what we asked them, and they've supported us for years, and what we asked them was, if we park a box truck at your business, instead of throwing all of your cardboard into the recycling, when you sell refrigerators and ovens, right, they all come in boxes, would you be willing to just throw those in this box truck and we'll just take your cardboard for you? And every year they've said, absolutely. You just park it at our business. And anytime we sell an appliance over the course of this week, we're just going to chuck all the cardboard in your truck. And this year, I think we got 60 to 70 appliance boxes. And again, it was just that company donating it to us. And so all of that was able to be used for this event.
Very cool. Well, you already touched on it. I was going to talk to you just in general about kind of fundraising, and I'm curious, how you kind of balance it out, because I think most administrators would say, obviously, we want to be in the classroom. I don't want to spend my time trying to run and do a bunch of fundraising type stuff. You kind of answered it partially already, because it sounds like this is the only fundraiser you do. So I'm guessing you don't mind putting in some upfront work to get to really, especially at the beginning of the year, if it's going to have this positive impact throughout the year, knowing that you're not going to have to keep coming back to the same well and doing a bunch of this type of fundraising throughout the year. Am I on the right track with that?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of things that I look at. Number one, the impact on students, teachers, and the actual teaching and learning that takes place is actually fairly minimal. It's about a day and a half, right? Because the day before the regatta, we do some of that prep work, and then regatta day is a full day. But other than that, our classroom time really is not impacted by this big event because the teachers are that is pretty minimal impact on them. So the nice thing is it really doesn't take away from curriculum and teaching and learning time for your school year. For the event, we look at that payoff, right? The ability to bring in $46,000 in one day, one event, and looking at what that money goes to support our school, that money is available for our teachers, our PTO supports so many amazing things with that money. They're supporting our departments. One of the coolest things that they do is they have a mini grant process where teachers can apply for a mini grant for something over and above, right? Something new to bring into their classrooms. And it's really, really cool to see what teachers will ask for and what our PTO can support, and just some of the amazing things that this brings in. We spend obviously a lot of time, but I lean on my PTO, and the fundraising, I don't touch one bit. That is our parents and our PTO that go out into the community, that talk to parents. So as the principal, I actually don't do any fundraising. I do thank yous and connect with the community partners, but I don't have to go out and ask for a penny of that money. Our PTO is amazing, and they go out and they collect all of that. Our PTO finds all of the volunteers. Really, the piece that I have and the piece that I own is organizing the day, the events, the tallying up the scores, the school event that you would expect. But the actual fundraising piece is 100% our parents. And and as you know, with anything, once you've done it once, years 2, 3, and 4, you've kind of got it down. And year 1 is a lot to build it, to figure it out, to do it. Absolutely. But then you step into it, and the further years, you kind of build your system, your routine, and the event in some ways runs itself once your teachers have done it a few times.
Yeah. Well, I think you have the wheels turning, hopefully, for people who are listening right now, even if you are not geographically located near to some nice park or pond. I think I have seen people attempt to do this, especially the larger schools, if they have an indoor swimming pool, or maybe there's a community pool you could do this at. and some other options like that if folks want to get creative. And Jeff is really great about sharing stuff. He's always willing to present in our In the Middle with You webinars that we do with middle level leaders across the state. So Jeff, do you want to share real quick either your Twitter or your email, so if folks do want to learn more, they can reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would give that message overall too, Ryan, exactly what you're saying is that, your event doesn't have to be, exactly like this. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be a regatta, right? But I think the mantra, that we've learned that I would want to share is that finding a way to have an event that your community can get behind, right? A way to sell to your community what you're doing in the schools and also what that money goes to support. You'll find people getting behind it and supporting the schools. And like I said, we have found that it's a much better use of our time, and it actually brings in more support by doing that versus trying to sell something to someone. So I would encourage people to get creative, right? And think of a way that you can do an event that showcases your school, that brings teamwork, communication, great skills for your students to learn, and partners with your community. So as Ryan, as you said, I am always willing to share things. My Twitter account at EGRMS Principal, easy to find. Follow me there. You can send me an email. My email is simply jdykhous@egrps.org. And I am always willing to share, but I also love to hear your ideas. So if you follow me, I'll typically follow you so that I can see what you're doing too, and I can learn from you.
Awesome. Well, I really enjoyed the conversation today. One of these days, I'll have to sneak over to your side of the state and check it out in person. So really appreciate the time, Jeff. Good luck with homecoming this week. And I'm glad the regatta was a success this year.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ryan. I love talking with you and being able to share, and hope everyone else has a fantastic rest of their fall.
All right. Thanks, Jeff. And that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you for listening to the MASSP podcast. Remember, you can listen to this podcast and others anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Just search for MASSP or hit the subscribe button right now.